I was worried about the whole concept of doing acrylics and then the acrylic wash and everything being rubbed off with the black wash over the top. So I got this Tamiya flat clear varnish, and it actually worked. I did that area, hasn't discoloured any of the acrylics underneath. So that was a possibility until I read the back of this, and it starts talking about potential kidney and liver damage, so never going to use that again. So what I've done is I've taken my basic orange spray paint, which I've got a whole can of, and I sprayed it into a empty yogurt container, collected the liquid, and then added a bit of black and mixed up my own orange, so it's an enamel. So I'm actually that's going to go through my spray gun, and I'm going to paint the main body of the blaster now. And I'm going to do the same for the red that I want on it, a dark reddy colour. As you can see, I've large areas of this dark reddy colour, and it's going to have white and black accents, and I can do that with the spray cans as well. Right guys, ready to go with the painting. Got my ruddy brown. Now, as you know, painting over a black background will make it a bit darker, and any paint, virtually any paint that you paint on, will dry darker. So this is looking more like a brown than an orange, but hey, we'll see. It's spitting everywhere. So as you can see, by leaving some areas not fully covered, I get like counter shading. And I can do that, but that's usually only useful on smaller scale models. You know, your tanks, your planes, that sort of thing. I was actually worried about not having enough colour to do the whole thing, but I think I've got plenty of this covering really well. So I'm going to do a couple of light coats on the different parts. Now I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to do sort of soft, wavy camouflage or hard-edged camouflage. I don't know. Soft might be, that way I don't have to do any masking. But you can use things like blue tack or even wet cotton wool to put your mask down. I just noticed some areas there where the wax and the clay's been worn off, so I've got to put a little bit of clay on that just to protect that area so that I can take it off and keep that sort of worn look underneath. So I've just added tiny bits of clay there just where the silver is showing through. I'm not worried about all these spots at the sides because there's more sand and clay underneath that, so that'll come up. So let's get back to it before the paint dries in the gun. Right guys, as you can see, I've got my dark reddy orange undercoat on, and I've done the same thing with the red. So I'm going to start putting the camouflage on now. The sound of my airbrush is dying, my compressor I should say. There we go. It probably looks terrible when what part of it's shiny and part of it's not, but it'll blend in when we get down to the dirtying down station. I've just got to work out where to put this thing while it's drying. The next thing I want to paint is the barrel extension, because I've got the laser, the red dot sight, and I've got the magnet so it'll sit in place so I can match up the paint pretty good. Always check all your edges, guys, because I painted that but I didn't paint that, so I've got to get some paint into this thing and keep going. Yeah, down on this leg. Now here's the thing, at this stage, halfway through painting, it looks absolutely appalling. It really looks ridiculous, but honestly, once it gets a couple more accent colours to go on, a grey and a cream for like little flecks in the camo, then the black wash over it, it'll blend all in, and then all the sooting and dirting down. Got to put some numbers in. That's one thing I forgot to do. Normally where I would put the number, which in this case is going to be here, I would have sprayed that white first, cut out some letters out of masking tape or some numbers out of masking tape, stuck it down, and that'd be the last thing to come off. But I forgot to do it, so I'm going to have to cut the letters out and put down a stencil and spray through it and mask the rest of the gun off. Right, morning guys, back in the shed. So as you can see, I've got everything set up. I think it's going to be a lot easier to hold the body in this vise. What I'm going to do now is decant some paint for my spray gun. And what I'm going to do, how I do that is I get the black paint, or whatever colour I'm going to use, and just spray it into a jar, straight down like that. Just catch it, and then I'll put it through the airbrush. So we'll get that done, but I'll do that outside because I want paint in a jar and not fumes in here. This Cove colour is doing this. See that? Yeah, just forming sheets. that is that. Alright, morning. Now, I'm just doing the stenciling, and what I've done, as you can see, hopefully, I've printed out some numbers there. I've just put, this box is the actual area I've got to actually put the stencil on. The line through the center is because I've got two different levels here, so I want to line it up, do half on top and half on bottom. And the font is Veldor Cooler, but I've just added a few lines where I may want to cut things. A bit of a curve there, a couple of straight lines there, don't know. I've printed out enough, so I've got plenty. So what I'm going to do, cut them out, stick some tape on the actual blaster, tape that on top, and cut through that into the tape, pull off the tape, so I'm not having to transfer the stencil. As you can see, I've got the blaster sitting on an old towel. Alright, so there I've got my paper template taped over the top of my tape. So I'm just going to cut through these and cut through the tape. Right, so there we have our stencil. Don't look too close, it's not very pretty. The other side's a bit better. And what I'm going to do is just mask it off now so I can spray it. And I've been humming and hawing about what colour. And I think I'll just play it safe and just use one of my grey primers. And there's a little band up here which I might paint yellow at some stage for, you know, like a unit marking or something. Right guys, now we get to the fun part. This is where we get to clean off all the resist off all the parts. And I'm not one for subtlety, just ask my wife, and this is how I do it. So we go. Well, this one will look good when it's cleaned up. Just got a scouring pad here. And just direct your scouring wherever you need it. Now this isn't coming up as worn as I'd like it, but it's very easy. I can just go over it with a brush with some silver on the edges and things. So of course you need to drain everything out. But because this is enamel paint, it's not going to be affected. It's no issue. Let's try one of these bits. There we go, that looks better. So there we get all our wear and tear. And I tried to keep the clay and the resist just to the higher surfaces and the corners, anywhere where there'd be wear. In the bottom of course, because that'll bump on things. There we go. Really you don't have to do anything more than that, because the clay will just come straight off and you'll hit the silver underneath, and the silver's pretty hard wearing. So there's really, unless you just go overboard. And I've left this bit off because I can then come in and maybe paint that with a coloured transparent paint or something, just to make it a bit more interesting. Lots of wear around the eyepiece. Oh, and the last couple of bits, which is going to be fun. So let's have a look at this. Oh, there's a tiny little bit off the bottom of the pistol grip. So you got your little bit of silver, a little bit of rust, and the actual body colour. I'm going to rip off the tape so the paint doesn't dry into tape, and when you take the tape off you rip off some of the paint. It's best to do it while it's still a bit soft. Tweezers are your friend. So, forgot about this, the grenade launcher. I never learned that blue soft plastic from the water pistol. As soon as I put a bit of masking tape on it, just pulled off. So I had to repaint it. So what I've done, instead of trying to mask that and paint it or do it by hand, I'm just going to change the story. It is now a 3-round grenade launcher that is considered disposable, the whole thing. The soldiers issued 3 or 4 of them Fires off 3, throws the thing away. Much like an M72 these days. Take the Hollywood route. If the facts don't fit the story, change the story.